Ooh. Happy Tuesday. This is Tyrone Gathers Jr., your host of The Source of the Inkwell, live on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, Kansas City's global community radio station. You can check out this broadcast a number of ways. You can hit us up on KUAW.org. You can also go to KUAW on Facebook Live, KUAW-LP FM 98.5. You can also go to KUAW on your TuneIn app on your phone, or you can go to KUAW on YouTube. Just type in KUAW Live. You can also go to KUAW on Twitter and on Periscope. And it's on Instagram also? No, not yet. So we're steadily growing, we're steadily moving, and you can access us on a number of different ways. This is a broadcast that we came up with today. I want to introduce my co-host today.
How y'all doing?
You all seen him before, Mr. Kevin Manning, aka Mr. DJ 2K. Strong supporter of this station and of this broadcast also. So I figured, we'll come in and do this amazing show. I also have some other guests that we're gonna call as well too. But today I want to kind of set the stage for what we'll be talking about today. I remember when I first started teaching, there was no. Okay, I finally got a signal. There was no Bugs Bunny cartoon. Thanks. There was no Bugs Bunny cartoon, and it was Bugs Bunny and his arch nemesis Daffy Duck, and they were standing in front of a tree, and on the tree it said duck season, and Daffy Duck snatched it down and it said rabbit season. It was going back and forth saying duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season. So I was doing that, and my class of 8th graders were trying to figure out what I was coming up with. So then I stopped and I put up the sign that said black folk season. And they said, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, it's open season on us. And if you haven't been watching the news, within the span of a month's time, it has been open season on people of color, predominantly black males, drastically. And we have the Mr. Aubrey case earlier this month. He was jogging, got through looking in the house, that's being constructed, and he was gunned down for that, execution style. Just yesterday we had Mr. Floyd was murdered, and then also yesterday we had a potential of someone almost being murdered, and we'll get into all that. And what's heartbreaking is people talk about this post-traumatic stress syndrome that we go through. And it is very alarming when you see people who look like you being murdered for the whole world to see. So, Kevin, I'm going to jump in with you, like I said, because you're probably one of my closest friends, and we talk a lot.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about these issues. What was going through your mind when you saw the George Floyd video?
When you first see it, you're in denial.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to believe that what you saw really just happened. But then you find yourself going down that rabbit hole to where you're watching over and over because you're in shock of what you saw.
Right.
And then, like me, I'm always posting stuff so people can see. And every time I saw a new angle, different look, I'm posting. And like on my way here, friend Terrell Ray made a good comment. Everybody doing all these videos, but ain't nobody saving nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I'll take a charge, run up on a cop to stop somebody from killing another man.
Mm-hmm.
So you got everybody's like, I recorded it, but you didn't try to stop it.
Right.
Because if you run up on that cop, he gonna pull his gun, he gonna stop what he doing. That man's still here. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when he said that, I was like, that's a good point. Yeah, it's all cool to record, but you gotta have some action with that recording. And to see that man got choked out like that in broad daylight and no one made any action, whether you know him or not, that's another life. Mm-hmm. You gotta, do something. Ask yourself, if that was you on the ground, what would you want me to do? Would you want me to keep recording, or would you want me to come towards you to make this cop stop?
Now there were a couple people that walked up. There was one brother who walked up and he was telling the cop to get off of him, and the police officer tried to put his hands on him. And then there was a white woman who walked up and said she was a first responder, and they denied her access to the gentleman. So, for those of you who aren't aware of the video that we were just talking about, because like at first I refused to look at the video. I didn't want to look at it.
But I told you had to.
Right, yeah, but I had to. And I ended up opening up the video, and I looked, and I'm seeing this officer with his knee in this brother's neck, and he's handcuffed, face down, can't breathe. And the body language that I saw this officer have, as well as the look on his face, he was enjoying every little bit of that. He was enjoying that. And I think what I saw, it was symbolic to what we go through in this country.
Yeah.
You know, it was sickening. It was disgraceful, and it just opened up so many wounds. I mean, I take that back. The wounds were already open. They poured salt in the wounds, and immediately you and I had the conversation about you got these mothers out here, you got these women out here who have black males in their family, and they are terrified.
Yeah, you got a lot of moms that got kids out here. Now, my mom has 3 sons.
Right.
So, I can only imagine what goes through her mind when she sees this. We're all 3 adult black males, 2 in Kansas City and 1 in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine what she thinking, how she feel. Now, ironically, my older brother, sorry, Tony, he got a speeding ticket coming from a small town from Atlanta to Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Imagine how that could have turned out for him if he didn't do what the cop said, or if the cop felt he didn't do what he was told to do. So it's one of those things where this is just, when dude had that look of, I got power over him, I'm going to keep exerting it.
Oh, yeah, and he kept pushing it deeper and deeper.
It's getting so ridiculous where it's like, oh, yeah, we about to have a hashtag and we about to throw a celebrity there. But what's going on beyond that? Like, everybody be like, they don't vote. You vote, you can get rid of that cop. You can get rid of the cops like that. You can change the whole culture if you do your part beyond a GoFundMe account,
right? Beyond
a Facebook post or whatever. It's like, what action are you taking to improve the situation? And a lot of us aren't doing anything. We're just gonna keep reposting. We'll go to the visual so we can try to be on the news.
15 minutes
in the background walking. But when that fizzles out and over, like this, unfortunately, this will be dead soon. Wrong choice of words. It'll be over soon because somebody else is gonna be dead soon. The way this is going. And when that happens, what's the response gonna be? Mm-hmm. What do we go do? How's everybody go act?
It's kind of like instead of party hopping, it's like we're funeral hopping. With the situation. Now, what I want to do is I want to kind of get some reactions from the sisters who actually raise young men to be African American males. Mr. Walker, you mind calling that first number? Yeah, we're gonna get someone on the line. Someone near and dear to my heart, the woman that raised me, my mother. And I want to talk to her about her vantage point in regards to this whole situation, because it's I remember I was watching Boys in the Hood, and and I had my son watching movies like that all the time. I remember I was talking to my co-teacher, who we'll be talking with later on. My son watched he and I watched Malcolm X, and I was explaining to him certain aspects in that film. And there was one moment in Boys in the Hood where Furious told his son, he said, one way to get rid of a group of people is to take away its ability to reproduce. So when you have black males being gunned down, how can the black family reproduce? It's like an extermination piece. So I might need to put on the earphones too, so I can hear. Okay.
Yeah. Some nice pink earbuds.
Oh man, look, pink's a masculine color.
Yeah, sure. That's what they tell you.
Oh yeah. That's all right. Caller, are you on?
Yes.
Hey, Mama, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. I already let the cat out the bag and said that you would be calling in. First of all, thanks for supporting the show.
You kind of sound far away a little bit.
Oh, I do. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hardly hear you on my phone though.
On the phone? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
I can. It's
All right.
kind of delayed reaction, though. Go ahead.
Okay. So quick question for you. We were just talking about the George Floyd situation where a man was brutally murdered by a police officer. He had his knee in the back of the man's neck to where he couldn't breathe, and he just died of lack of air. So, with you raising a black male, what was your reaction? What is your reaction when you see situations on the news where police officers are just killing black men like it's just like it's open season?
My reaction when I saw this today, and then also when I see it, it's appalling and it's heart wrenching. Um, Whether that's my son or not, my heart goes out. And I look at the individual. I can't even call them a police officer because they don't represent a police officer, which is supposed to protect, um, the citizens. But when I see most of these police officers that's doing this, they're white, and I look at their body language. I look at their kind of like profile there,
Mm-hmm.
and I see and I sense a sense of enjoyment that they're getting. Like today, when I saw this officer had his knee in this young man's neck, I actually saw him with my own eyes. I thought he was adding more pressure
Mm.
when I saw the video.
Mm-hmm.
And the weight, I don't know how much the officer weighed, but I can just feel this young man's neck bones cracking and everything. And it just touched my heart.
Mm.
And then how they turned him around um, to put him on his back, it was like they pretty much tossed him, in my opinion, like a rag doll. Like his
Yeah.
life was just worthless, that he just wasn't of importance. He didn't matter.
Mm.
And it does have a sense of fear, in my opinion, that they're trying to wipe out the black race, the male race, like you guys are a target. And in my opinion, I can't even really find the words because I'm still touched by this, and
Mm-hmm.
my heart's going out to that young man's family. Um, I don't want to get political, but I do feel like the person in the White House has kind of lit the fuel or the fire, as one would say,
Mm-hmm.
to this, setting the tone. But still, although he set the tone, we all are responsible for our own actions. And just like in our church, they say love out loud. We have to do more than love out loud. We got to stand together out loud and make some noise.
Mm.
You can't be sitting on your behind, on your hands, and not do anything and not say anything,
Mm-hmm.
because the louder you voice and make noise about a situation, someone's going to hear you. We all people have to say something and stand together and not sit back, wish I shoulda, coulda.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was standing in that crowd and saw that, I would have called down to the police officer and got the chief on the line.
Yeah, and we made a comment earlier. Well, on my Facebook page, no, Mom, you don't have Facebook, but I made a comment that that people's silence is submission. You know, they're not speaking up because they're submissive. They're not speaking up because they're suppressed. And you made a good point that people need to speak up and make noise, and that's the issue. We have uh this thing is going on. Like Kevin was saying earlier, people have shared the post or whatnot, but what are you doing beyond that? You know, now, Mama, you
My
oh, go
my
ahead, go ahead.
thing is, not to interrupt you. My thing, when people see the video, this is where I have a problem. You share the video, passing it around to all these different people to look, and for them to get a reaction. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Mm.
You sharing the video, but what are you doing about it? share the video, okay, that's fine. But say, let's rally up and let's get together and find out, and come together and see what we're going to do about this.
Mm-hmm.
You protest on everything else. You get on Facebook running your mouth about any and everything else. But see, when I see that, that could be my son, my grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
I have a grandson.
You
I
got
have
two. Yeah.
grandsons.
Mm-hmm.
Make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that's a form of gossiping when you're sharing the video and you're doing nothing about it.
Mm.
You have lots of people that's connected with like churches, organizations, or whatever. Or if you're not connected with something like that, form a connection.
Yeah. When you said
You talk about everything else. Let's do some good about it. Flip that negative. Let's do some good. We got to stand. We have to be a voice for the ones that are being these police officers that are being abusive to the black race. Be it the black race, but it goes to all the brown people. We all are targets. All the brown people are.
Yeah, and you made a point where you said that could be my son, my grandson. That's that sense of empathy that I feel that people in this country just don't really have for real. Like when I have conversations with certain individuals and they make comments like, that could have been my child. That's showing me right there that they're already starting to empathize with what's going on. So, you said it, and you got a comment. It says, "Right, Auntie, let's do something," from Brent Smith.
Not right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying this. People looking and seeing, and I'm just like, if you gonna see something like that, don't talk about it. Be about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it in a positive way. But if more people would speak out loud, love out loud, speak out loud, do it in a positive, intelligent way, like these politicians, the governors that we have, or whatever they want to call themselves, the mayor. Yeah, I'm calling you out. Y'all want to come around and get our votes, but when we need you the most, you're a ghost.
Wow.
It kind of rhymes, didn't it? But I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, you are, because they and it's funny you say that, because if people of color realize how powerful their votes are, every election year they spend so much time in black communities, Hispanic communities, trying to get these votes and trying to sell these wolf tickets on what they can do. But then as soon as they get in office, like a honeymoon, they cool for about a good 20, 30 minutes, but then other than that, they gone.
Yeah. Gone with the quickness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they use. It's like they use me. They want to befriend you to get your vote. And once they get the vote, you're forgotten. If you can say you have an issue and you call down, like with this issue, all this black crime, you call the office. It'll go in voicemail. The voicemail is either full, or if you do get a hold of someone, they don't call you back. You go down to the office of these politicians, you can't get in to see them. So it's just like we as a people have to rally among ourselves.
Yeah, it's like we gotta do it for ourselves. Definite point. So we have to work. Oh yeah, we have work to do. We have to vote in all elections, not just not just presidential elections. That's a good comment.
That's right.
That's
and
right.
We have to stay prayerful, because I'm gonna be honest with you, we're on the battlefield, and I don't know what other people's religions are, but there's a higher power, and we have to stay prayed up and blessed up. And if we stand together, we will conquer this. And we have to talk to it's just a shame we have to have a conversation with our young black men on how to act and how to do this and do that, when the other people, the white children, can do the same thing, and be it a white cop or black cop, they don't get the same handling as a black person. And so, as I had that conversation with you as you were growing up, and as I'm sure your sister and her husband have a conversation with my grandson, their son, and as you're having a conversation with your son, with this son, when you get pulled over by the police, keep your hands on the steering wheel and do the commands.
Right.
And see, it's scary, but we have to have that conversation with our young black men.
That's right.
And sometimes when they do follow suit, they still are gunned down.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
Well, Mom, I thank you for.
We're gonna win this. So I appreciate you having this show, and I just hope and pray that everything gets better. And I'm pretty numb right now for what I saw.
Yeah.
And
I'm, and it hurts me that you had to even, look at that. But same time though, you're coming up with solutions. Like I know T Baby said in her show last hour that we have the end result, but how are we going to get there? And you gave us a lot of ways on how to get there, and I really appreciate you for that. So thank you for answering the call and for being a guest on the show.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm thankful for this show, and you keep doing what you do, and the voices will get louder, and
That's
something
right.
will be done. But anyway, thank you for your time, and thank you for calling me. And it's been a pleasure being a part of your show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being your son.
Oh, hey, you know what? You're a blessing and a gift from God. You and your sister.
All right. Thank you, Mom. I love you.
I'm proud of you both. Proud of you both. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. God bless.
God bless. Yeah, so I think it was only fitting that, we had Mom come in and to say her piece. Because I know, Kevin, I'm going to go ahead and put you out there. This was Kevin. Well, no, seriously, though, because I called Kevin this morning, and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do with the show. And then Kevin was like, well, you know what? How about you just, it's one thing if, you got men talking about this, but you need to get the aspect from mothers, women who are actually raising these kids. So the women that I've called upon are women who are raising their sons in different aspects of their lives.
Yes.
So I have, me as an adult, and then I have teenager, and then I have preteen. But let's look at some of these comments we have here. We have, we'll stand in line for shoes, but not to vote for elected officials. We have to have conversations with our children. Other folk don't, and that ain't right. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Now, Kevin, you and I are both black males, and I know Mom made a comment about the police. Have you ever had a situation where you were driving or you had an encounter with the police officer and you felt scared or you felt very uncomfortable?
Yeah, the past year I lived in Raytown.
Right.
So, lovely, lovely Raytown. And, I got the part-time gig I do every other weekend or whatever. And every morning, I'm leaving 6 in the morning to head to the part-time gig. I will literally get escorted out of Raytown. I guarantee you, every other morning, I'm getting escorted. Literally from Mom's crib off of, by that pizza off, was that 65th or whatever?
67.
Yeah, Raytown Road. From there, clear until I get on 350, 9 times out of 10, a Raytown cop is behind me. As if they've never seen my car before. And I stayed there for like a year and a half. And it was consistent every time. So I'm just waiting to see, okay, you gonna pull me over? What's gonna happen? What's about to go down? Let me make sure I got everything where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And, just go from there. But every morning, 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, never fail. As soon as I would be by that, what's that Chinese restaurant?
Mama China.
Mama China, making it right on Raytown Road. Before I could get to Sonic, a cop car is right behind me. And my car is old. Ain't nothing spectacular about it. But consistently, if it didn't happen on Saturday, it happened on Sunday. All the time, guaranteed.
And I'm glad you said that because it's a routine.
Yeah.
They routinely knew your system, and I guarantee you it's probably the same cop. Or
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Now, I have a situation like that too, and it's messed up because you and I were both born and raised in the inner city of Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
My worst experiences with the police have been out in the suburbs. I remember when I first started driving, my parents said, "Be careful driving through Raytown." I know I shared with you earlier a situation where my dad and stepmother and family moved out to Lee Summit, and I always felt uncomfortable driving out there. So one night I was driving home from going out with some friends, and I was driving past the entryway to the housing development. Well, the police had it blocked off, so I went to the school next door where my stepbrother went, turned around in the parking lot, cop was on me. He pulls me over and he's asking me all these questions. Looks at my ID and I had my mother's address on there. And he said, well, you're far from home, aren't you? I said, no, my dad lives around the corner. And he said, oh, okay. Well, the reason why I stopped you is because we have some vandalism going on over here. I says, I wasn't vandalizing. I said, I was turning around. And I was explaining to him what I was going, what was going on. So I just kept it quiet. So then, I remember what my parents said about dealing with police, and the cop was he was just kind of, the way he was talking to me was as if I shouldn't be out that way. So I remember going home, went in through the front door, and it's like clockwork. Every time I go out, stepmother she always stayed up, and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I just told her, I said, got pulled over. She wakes my dad up, and I'm explaining to them what's going on. And as I was explaining to them what was going on, father was getting up, putting on his pants, putting on his shoes, because he was ready to go to that police department. And that's the piece that I always keep in mind is that, he saw me bothered by this. I'm going to take care of this. And then he came upstairs to the room. We talked about it and everything. And he saw that I was okay. He went on back downstairs. But I could tell it bothered him that his son was going through that mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to get another young lady on the phone and see what's going on? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and call someone else. The second one is Tamara. Yeah, my sister. And really my sister's post, hopefully we can get her on the line. And if we can't get Tamara on the line, I'm gonna read her post because Tamara's post was my sister's married to an amazing gentleman. And I say that because as a big brother, I don't have to worry about my sister because she has this great husband.
Yeah.
And my sister, she married a good guy, so I don't have to worry about her. But when I looked on her post, I went into big brother mode, and I was like, oh man, I gotta check on my sister. And, Tamara, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And I kind of had I was talking them up because I saw your post earlier today, and I was telling Kevin and the world that as a big brother, I don't have to worry about you because you married an amazing husband, and I'm really thankful that it's like, hey, got a brother-in-law there, he looks out for her. So, but when I saw your post today, big brother mode kicked in, and I was like, oh man, I got to make sure my sister's okay. So, we're talking about this George Floyd video, and your post this morning was very moving, and it was very revealing to how a black mother feels. Do you mind sharing that?
No, I don't mind. So typically, I don't. Whenever I see videos to that magnitude, really, no matter what the race is, I normally tend not to watch them because it's one, sad is reality for like a lot of people. It's like the world that we live in today, unfortunately, and it causes a lot of mixed emotions. And for whatever reason today, I was kind of led to look at it, and a lot who have seen the video, they know how graphic it is. Those that haven't seen it, I would suggest, maybe, looking at it to kind of, if you're not aware of how things, are going, like kind of like educate yourself and like just think of how you may feel. But pretty much it was 4 officers holding an African American male down. One had his legs, one, was on his wrist, I guess, because he was handcuffed. One had his body weight on his neck, had his knee in his neck while he had his hands in his pocket. And then it was like someone else, in between another cop. People were pleading, saying, hey, he can't breathe. And, my initial reaction is, it doesn't matter what this individual was stopped for.
Right.
if he is unarmed, if he is detained by police. Apparently he was because he had handcuffs. What type of threat is he? If they were concerned of the fact that he was moving or his body was jerking, thinking he was trying to get up or run, in my mind, just being a civilian and also having common sense, you're choking this individual and his body is reacting to gasping for air. So, you confusing the two is, beyond me. And even though he was in the situation that he was in, um, he still was being very respectful, saying, can you please stop? Like, I
Mhm.
can't breathe. He wasn't being irate. He wasn't being belligerent. He pretty much was begging for his life.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate that myself being an African American female at the age of 37, I have a 15-year-old son
Mhm.
who has a hairstyle of dreadlocks, which is, is from our African American ancestors.
Mhm.
So he's automatically labeled.
Right.
He's African American, because of his hair and how he looks. What I posted today on Facebook was pretty much every day.
Mhm.
Whenever we go out, we're a busy family. We're in and out of stores. We travel a lot, and it's the same routine every day. Son, don't touch that. Daughter, don't touch that. Keep your hands out your pocket. Take your hood off.
Mhm.
And it's sad that I have to tell my children that. It's sad that I have to. I don't want to say overparent, but it's sad that I have to tell my children that in fear of being in a situation, because I know when it comes to my children, I'll go to jail for my kids. And that's my
Mhm.
fear of my kids being in this situation or me being put in this situation. And, growing up, in my time, there was, racism here and there, but not to the magnitude of like what it is now. So literally, there is a fear that I have, not only for my children, but for my, my nephews and, for my godchildren and for all, not just African American, but really all ethnicities that do have to deal with this. It's just unfortunate that,
Mhm.
African Americans make the news constantly. And to see this individual really saying, I
Mhm.
can't breathe, it's like I'm, God rest his soul, but it's like, I'm walking on this earth and I can't breathe. Like, I'm not comfortable with
Mm.
breathing. Like, I'm not comfortable with being myself. It's like life is choking the air out of, the African American community. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like, darn if you do, darn if you don't. We want to be labeled as thugs or, criminals or gangsters, and, don't be a product of your environment. Try and do better. If you want better, do better. But we get pulled over for having a nice car.
Mhm.
If we go into a dealership and we have a 800, credit score, and we want to pay cash for a car, we're labeled as, okay, you must be a drug dealer or like something is up with that. We want to be educated. It's always something, and it's like it's the reality.
Mhm.
And even with naming our children, my kids' names are Chloe and Leonard. I don't want them to be subject to discrimination based off of their name, and it's sad that we have to really think of every single thing that we do down to naming our children to protect them from the world because we don't want them labeled for having an quote ethnic name. And I tend not to say, black and white, because when you look up white in the dictionary, it's,
Mhm.
defined as very angelic, something, nice, beautiful, green, and black is identified as something very demonic and
Mhm.
evil and things like that. So I tend to like say African American a lot because I'm not black. To me, the crayon is black. I'm not that dark. So I tend to, tell my children like, you're African American. You're descent from African, but you were born. I mean, from Africa, but you're born in America. And
Mhm.
always stay true to yourself and always have your voice. You can, be yourself, but it's only so much you can tell your children because they can only be themselves to a certain extent.
Mhm.
And it really pissed me off because I experienced racism yesterday.
Oh.
I was out at a friend of mine's house, helping them move. And they stay out in a nice area, but it's a very diverse area. And so her dog, got away. And so we're trying to corral her dog, and so he ends up going into a Caucasian man's, yard, and the guy happened to be outside working, and so he sees us, calling the dog, and we're thinking he's gonna help, corral, and he just looks and he walks back in the garage, and so I tend to not jump to, make assumptions and things like that. So I'm just thinking, maybe he's just too busy or he wants to get things out the way so the dog doesn't get hurt. The dog goes inside the guy's garage, and so when I get in the gentleman's driveway, I'm like, okay, where did he go? And the guy didn't say anything to me. So again, try not to jump to conclusions. He's an older gentleman. Maybe he didn't hear me. So the dog runs out the driveway and, runs up the street. We end up getting him. And so I was like, let me just, try this again. So as we walked past his driveway, and I said in a very loud, voice, not rude, just making sure he heard me, I said, thank you again, sir. I'm sorry about that. Have a great day. He goes to put his garage door down and just goes back in the house. And so we're just like, was that really, necessary? And I myself, like, I've never really experienced it, like, on a major, level. And, like, in this situation, like, it really upset me because, like, it's not that serious. But, again, I do understand that it does come from an individual's foundation and their upbringing. I do know that there are individuals who have never seen an African American person until they've, went to a different state. Like, I get it, I understand, but it's our job to educate ourselves, and we can't dumb ourselves down. Like, we don't have the luxury to turn off racism like other ethnicities can. They have the luxury, to turn it off, but we can't. This is every day. We wake up African American, we go to sleep African American, we die African American, and 9 times out of 10, it's from the hands of those who are to protect and serve. And I agree, in some situations there should be force used, but from what I've seen, especially from that video today, I'll be darned if that's my son or if that's my daughter or if that's my nephew. Like, that's, and it makes me wonder what's going through that person's head. Like, what makes you think that your body weight, like, you're a grown man and you have your knee in this man's neck, crushing his airway, and he's saying, please, like, he's begging, like, please let me breathe. I can't breathe. And you're just sitting there with your hands in your pocket. And your partner just says, get your knee off of his neck, partner. No. Your partner, who was just standing up, should have went over and grabbed you by your arm and said, partner, get off of his neck. He's saying he can't breathe. Even when they put him on the stretcher, he's in handcuffs, and you just toss him on there like he's a sack of potatoes. Didn't see, EMS do anything. Even when EMS came to check his pulse, his knee is still on his neck.
Yes, it was.
No mouth to mouth.
Nothing.
No anything, not even try to save his life. And it's apparent I knew he was deceased because, of how he looked. And that's sad that we have to be in fear of those who are here to protect and serve. Really not those that are here to protect and serve, but like anybody. Like, you're in fear to be what your ethnicity is. Exactly. And to me, like, that's ridiculous. And I know that there's 3 sides to every story, but it doesn't give the right to kill someone. That was blatant murder.
Okay, Tim, I got a question for you. You hear me, right? Okay. Well, first, you make me feel old now, knowing that you're 37 now. I feel a little old. You're doing a good job with my nephew. He's studious.
Thank you.
I'm considering how you was crazy. I'm very proud of you. I gotta make things a little light for a second. When you saw that video, did you take it to him to see, or how do you educate him to let him know this is what you have to deal with as you go out into this world? Because by him being 15, at some point he's going to have the keys to the car and be out by himself or be out with his friends. Being a mom, how do you deal with that?
So my son, he hasn't seen the video yet. With him being 15, he has his cell phone, so I'm sure he's seen you know, fight videos or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, videos of of violence. But me and his dad, we don't shield him nor my daughter from anything. Like we keep it real 100,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if you do this, this can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny that you asked me that question because I was going back and forth if I was going to show him that video or not, and like really have him tell me how he feels because this is real. Like this can happen prayerfully. This is my prayer that God keeps His armor of protection around my kids and around my nephews and around my godchildren.
Yeah.
But this can potentially happen to you. And when
Mm-hmm.
you start driving, if a cop pulls you over, you need to turn the car off,
Mm-hmm.
take the keys out the ignition, and have your hands up. Like that's like we're training our kids like to be robots to really like protect themselves. And it's kind of like, what do you do as a parent? Because like I'm not going to be with him 24/7 to protect him. All I can do is pray that the morals and values that me and my husband instilled in him, that he would take that and really trust that, hey, we're telling you the truth. We're not saying, certain things to, shield you or anything like that because we're very stern, but we're lenient with our children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is like reality and it's scary. And, with us, like we live in the Raytown area and, my kids really haven't been exposed to like some things that other children have been exposed to, but they see like stuff in the movies and things like that, and it's like, hey, this happens in real life, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when he starts driving and stuff, like he has to understand you have to make good choices, you have to be responsible, you have to be aware, but unfortunately you also have to conform.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, like you're
Yeah.
forced to
Big
conform if
unfortunate.
you are pulled over by a police officer, and for me to have to tell my son that, like to me that's messed up
Yeah.
because my son, he needs to be his own person, but you still have to conform to someone who quote is superior, in so many, words or whatever. And I don't even like saying that because I feel like we are all equal, but because you have a badge, you think you're better than whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
And, we let our children, be their own individuals, but I don't, it's just hard, to try to
So,
navigate them through
We
life,
got another
to
caller
teach
coming
them the
too.
things that our parents taught us, the things that I learned growing up, in my teens, my 20s, and now my 30s, because life is totally different now. It's like we have numbers on our heads. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I feel.
Right.
We have numbers on our heads, and it can be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can literally be anybody.
Yeah.
Like there was a gentleman who was shot by the police yesterday in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when does it stop? Like, you think you would have learned, after all these killings, like after Trayvon, after Mike Brown, after, Philandra Castro, like after all these things that happened, after Sandra Bland. And it's like, we have these videos and all this technology, and nothing is being done. It's not like we're making stuff up. It's not like, we're crying wolf. It's reality. Like, it's an outrage, but it also does take people who have the platform, that's in politics, whatever it may be, to advocate for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's very sad that if it's like a 10-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl, you ask them, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an attorney to protect my African American people.
Hmm. Well, the young lady on the show prior to us, she said that we need to start grooming our own lawyers and politicians. She said, because see, a lot of us want our kids to be rappers and athletes, but there's not much longevity in that. She said, when you are a senator or a congressman, congresswoman, or a president, or any governmental figure, you are continuously getting paid for that, and you make more of an impact in your community like that. And if you look at it, I mean, it's not many people that look like us that are making policies and laws. But when you look
Mhm.
on television, you see a lot of us, like she said, shucking and jiving and entertaining. So I think we might need to do a paradigm shift with um, how we groom our children. Now I know some parents, they use sports as a way to get into school, because I mean there are a lot of athletes out there who are um, they used school sports to get the degree to be a more beneficial piece. But I know we had another caller to come in, but we're not gonna have enough time to get her on. But I do want to ask this other question while I have you here, and Kevin, you here as well. There was another situation with a young lady, Amy Cooper. She was walking her dog in a park, Central Park, and she did not have a leash on her dog. And when the gentleman confronted her about that, she got on the phone and told him, "I'm going to tell the police you're attacking me." So she flat out told the man, "I'm going to tell the police you're attacking me." So already telling him, I'm going to lie to him right here. Excuse me. So when I saw that, automatically what came to my mind was Emmett Till, Central Park 5, Rosewood, how a lie from a white woman devastated the lives of several black men, and of course in Rosewood, a whole township. So are as a black mother, are you fearful of lies that someone can tell on your child?
Say that again. Am I fearful of what?
Of someone, telling a lie, lying on your child, saying that your son did X, Y, Z. And
oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because my son he's an athlete. He's a good student, and it's those are the ones that get lied on. A lot of times, and not just with him, but my daughter. And I feel like in situations like that, just like if an individual is diagnosed with AIDS and they are aware they have AIDS, but they're still going out having sexual relations with other individuals, they're held accountable and they are sentenced to go to jail. I feel like, and I even said it with this whole coronavirus, if someone intentionally coughs on someone, they need to be held accountable and go to jail.
Right.
Because this whole virus is going around. If someone lies on someone, they need to be held accountable and go to jail, because there's a lot of people that look like me and you in the system who have been lied on and who have done decades in jail. And then when they get out, their life doesn't start where it stopped. While the individual who lied, I'm sorry I lied, their name is dragged through the mud or whatever, but they still get to live their life. Versus, people that look like you and I that live their lives behind bars. And to me, I just feel like, at what point does it stop? Like when you mentioned that we have to groom our young, young girls and boys, growing up to be lawyers and, things like that. Like, I agree with that, but also we need to hold our politicians accountable as well. I feel like having prayer vigils and, protesting at the scene of a crime, that's good and fine, but let's go protest at the office of the politicians. Let's go protest in front of their house. Because there's only so many candles and flowers you can plant at the scene of a crime. All that does is bring awareness and gives the news channel a story. So when are we going to go downtown and advocate and march and light fire under these politicians' butts? When are we going to rally up and go to Jeff City and lobby?
That's right. Because we
like
have
putting,
we
like
have that right
stuff
too.
On a T-shirt and making a Facebook post. That's in no disrespect. I mean this with the most respect as possible. That's just the flavor of the month and having something to talk about, because that dies down. How do we keep this ball rolling? And not just, okay, here's another African American male that passed away. Here's another, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that. If you're tired, do something. We say get out and vote. Yes, get out and vote, but do more. You can do more than just that. I don't think people realize when you are a resident, if you are a part of a community, you have so much power that you don't even realize that you have. Now, to get things done.
Yeah, what you're saying is right. What I think we got to do, and I'm going to call it what it was, that was white privilege when she called the cops.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less. She let it be known, I got white power. And it's like the thing that we got to do, we got to go back to, Martin's time to where everybody was a village. Like, I know right now, if you see my daughters wilding out, I know you go get them in line. If I see your kids wilding out, I'm going to put it, you know what I'm saying? We take care of each other, and we done got away from that. We get back to that. Then we raise kids how they need to be. we educate them on how important it is to vote and this, that, and the third. It's like I said, we too busy worried about, let me get this scholarship so I can get this Maybach so I can show what my son done did and I'm about to lead the projects. Instead of being like, let me improve. We so quick to leave, we don't realize what we leaving behind and how messed up we leaving it behind. Then when gentrification comes in, everybody want to be upset about it. How can you be upset if you left it?
That's right.
So like we got to get back to where our community really is our community, and we look out for each other. Because I grew up on 37th and Bell Fountain. Miss Hawkins would let my mom know in a heartbeat if I did something wrong. I catch a beat down from her, my mom, and my dad, and maybe somebody else just for fun. We got to get back to those times. Till we get back to that, everything's gonna keep being discarded. Flavor of the month. Everybody gonna be at Skybox buying T-shirts. You know what I'm saying? You know, we R.I.P. this, that, and the third. That stuff's getting old and tired. I feel like it's like a bad mixtape that won't go away.
It's a cliche. And we're at the end of this cusp. Now, first of all, before I wrap it up and close it, I definitely want to thank Kevin for coming in. Tamara, thank you for being a guest on the show via phone. And also, I want to thank Mom for sharing her love too. Now, we're supposed to. I had 2 more phone calls to get in too, but what I want to do, I am going. I mean, this conversation is so rich. I'm definitely going to extend it to next week. Hopefully, the 2 young ladies who I didn't get to tonight, they will be able to call in or actually come into the studio next week, because I do want to address another piece too. It's one thing that black man and black man is talking, and black man and black woman is talking. But what about our white counterparts who say they love us and they care for us? You know, where's your voice in this? How can you add to this mix too to make the voice even louder? So I do want to close and say that what happened with George Floyd is a reflection of what's going on in this country right now. There are many George Floyds that are going on right now in this country that are dying at the mercy. I'm sorry, it's not even merciful. At the oppression of the policeman's boot, the oppression of one who is making a racist dialogue with this situation. What can we do? How can we make our voices louder? How can we make our voices stronger to send a message? Because someone made a comment earlier. They said, "I'm tired." I said, well, you know what? It's time to drink that coffee and get back out there on the field, because we can't sit there on the sideline and be quiet. Because where there's silence in situations like this, there is submission. This is Tyrone Gathers Jr. and my family in the sources of Inkwell. And in the Inkwell, education overflows like ink. And just like ink, it stains. Let it stain permanent. We got to educate one another. God bless.